She slapped my daughter across the face in front of the whole family, then looked me dead in the eye and said, "Someone had to do it." I didn't even get a chance to react. My husband was already dragging me out the door, whispering, "Don't make this worse." Worse? Worse! My 72-year-old mother-in-law had just physically assaulted my 13-year-old because she rolled her eyes during grace, and I'm the one making it worse. My name's Rachel, I'm 36, and I didn't know I was marrying into a cult until I had kids. You know what's wild? I actually used to like my mother-in-law. Joyce made these amazing snickerdoodles, told really funny inappropriate jokes, and always had a bottle of red wine in hand before 4 p.m. I thought she was just your typical chaotic grandma type. Kinda loud, kinda nosy, but mostly harmless. Ha, harmless. What a joke. It started small, innocent, the kind of stuff you brush off because she means well. Like the time she told my toddler that if she didn't eat her broccoli, she'd grow up ugly and sad. I laughed. Actually laughed. I thought it was just old school weirdness. Then came the little gifts she'd slip my kids when I wasn't looking. "Don't tell mommy," she'd whisper, handing over $5 bills or gross gum that turned your tongue black. I didn't realize she was slowly planting the idea that mommy was the bad guy. By the time my daughter turned 10, she was already parroting Joyce's little catchphrases like a cult recruit. "Daddy says Grandma just wants what's best," she'd mumble anytime I tried to lay down a rule. "Grandma says you're always in a mood." The kicker? My husband never said half the crap Joyce claimed he did, but he never denied it either. Every time I brought it up, he'd play dumb. "She's just being old-fashioned. Don't take it so personally. You know how my mom is." Yes, I do. She's a manipulative, control-obsessed saboteur in pearls and orthopedic shoes. And if I don't figure out how to stop her, I'm going to lose my kids and my sanity. I wish I could tell you the slap was the breaking point. That I packed the bags, grabbed the kids, and left that night. But no, that wasn't the end. That was the beginning of something so much worse. You won't believe what she did next. The next morning, my daughter wouldn't even look at me. She sat at the breakfast table poking at her cereal like I'd been the one who smacked her, not her sweet old Grammy Joyce. And when I gently asked if she wanted to talk about what happened, she mumbled, "Grandma said you'd try to turn me against her." I swear I felt something inside me snap, like a cord pulled too tight for too long, finally gave way. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just dealing with a difficult in-law. I was in a full-blown psychological custody battle. And the worst part, no one around me seemed to notice or care. My husband, Nate, God bless his spineless heart, had the nerve to say I was overreacting, that Joyce didn't mean it, that our daughter probably needed a little discipline. Oh, right, of course. Because God forbid a 13-year-old expresses a single ounce of attitude without being publicly humiliated and slapped by a woman who thinks Dr. Phil is too liberal. That night I checked my daughter's phone, not because I'm controlling, but because I had a sick feeling in my gut, and I was right. There were messages from Joyce. Dozens, all behind my back. Little things like, "I know it's hard living with your mom," or "Don't worry, sweetie, I'm always here for you." But then they got darker. Sometimes moms just don't understand. It's okay to keep things from her. And the one that made me go ice cold. "If it ever gets too hard, I'll come get you. You can always stay with me." Oh, hell, no. I confronted Nate, hoping, begging for some support, but he just shrugged and said, "She's family. She loves the kids. Maybe she's just being supportive." Supportive? If by supportive you mean undermining every parenting decision I make and secretly turning my own daughter against me, then yeah, I guess she's the damn fairy godmother of the year. The real kicker? When I tried to block Joyce's number from our daughter's phone, Nate unblocked it the next day. Said I was being controlling. Said I needed to learn to let go. I nearly threw his phone in the garbage disposal. I wish I could say I had a plan, a strategy. Some kind of brilliant move ready to go. But all I had in that moment was rage, fear, and the growing, sickening suspicion that I was being systematically erased from my own child's life. And then the school called. Apparently Joyce had shown up during lunch hour, without telling anyone, and signed my daughter out. Where she took her is the part that will make your blood boil. She took her to a lawyer. You read that right. My 72-year-old mother-in-law dragged my 13-year-old daughter out of school and into a law office without asking me, telling me, or even pretending to ask for my damn permission. I found out because the school secretary, God bless Mrs. Daniels and her passive-aggressive sticky notes, called me afterward and whispered, "I wasn't comfortable with it, but your husband's name is on the emergency contact list, and I didn't want to start anything." Oh, you didn't want to start anything? Honey, the war had already begun. By the time I reached Nate's office, yes, I drove there in my slippers, adrenaline is powerful, he was conveniently in a meeting, and his assistant looked at me like I was some deranged PTA mom hopped up on espresso and vengeance. Which, to be fair, I was. I called him 10 times. He picked up on the 11th and had the nerve to sigh into the phone like I was inconveniencing him. Me. "Your mother kidnapped our daughter." Him. "You're being dramatic again." Me. "She took her to a lawyer." Nate. Him. "Okay, now you are being dramatic." Turns out, Joyce wanted to inquire about what rights a grandparent has if a child feels unsafe at home. Oh, and to get advice on how to set up a trust for the child, separate from the unstable mother's financial influence. I didn't even know whether to scream or throw up. Maybe both, simultaneously. When I confronted Joyce, she looked me dead in the face and said, "I had to protect her, Rachel. She told me you've been yelling, that you scream at her all the time. That you're unstable. Her voice dropped like she was about to deliver the final punchline at a dinner party. And when a child cries herself to sleep, someone has to step in. Funny, considering my daughter had never mentioned anything like that. Not once. But now I was paranoid. What was Joyce telling her behind my back? How many times had she subtly planted the idea that I was cruel, irrational, unloving? I tried to talk to my daughter that night. Really talk. Just the two of us. No yelling, no phones, just honesty. But all I got was a shrug, and Grandma says you're just mad because people like her better. That one sentence shattered something I didn't even know I had left. And then Joyce posted on Facebook. One of those vague, weaponized boomer posts with just enough detail to stir up drama. Sometimes you have to be the villain in someone's story to protect an innocent soul. 300 likes, 27 comments. All, you're such a strong woman and praying for you. I wasn't even tagged, but I was targeted. The next morning, CPS knocked on my door, and they weren't smiling. They came with clipboards and concerned voices, like they were rehearsing for a documentary called When Mothers Snap. The taller one did most of the talking while the other wandered through my living room, eyes darting like she was waiting for a bruised child to stumble out from under the couch. I stood there in yesterday's leggings, unbrushed hair, heart beating like I'd just robbed a bank, trying to process how the hell we got here. They said there'd been a report, an anonymous report, claiming emotional neglect. That my daughter cried constantly, that she was afraid of me, that she'd asked her grandmother for help. I didn't even have to ask who filed it. Joyce probably printed out the damn form and hand-delivered it like it was her civic duty. She probably rehearsed it in front of a mirror with dramatic pauses and everything. The Oscar for Best Performance by a Toxic Matriarch goes to I wanted to scream, to tear my hair out, but I smiled. I answered questions. I invited them in and offered coffee I hadn't even brewed for myself, because in that moment, I wasn't just a mother. I was a defendant trying to prove I deserved custody of my own kid. When they finally left, promising to follow up in a few weeks, I collapsed on the couch and stared at the ceiling for what felt like 100 years. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was terrified. Terrified of losing her. Not to the state, not to the system. To Joyce. I sat my daughter down that evening, this time with no expectations, no lectures, no agenda. Just, why did you tell Grandma you were scared of me? Her answer? I didn't. She just asked me if you ever got mad, and I said yeah. And then she said, that must be scary. So I guess I agreed. It hit me like a truck. This wasn't just manipulation. It was grooming. Grooming her to doubt me. To question every memory, every rule, every hug that came with a no, you can't have ice cream before dinner. I started documenting everything, every interaction, every weird comment. Every time Joyce showed up unannounced or texted my daughter after bedtime. I even bought a damn nanny cam, not because I didn't trust my kid, but because I didn't trust the people trying to rewrite her world behind my back. And still, Nate acted like I was the problem. He rolled his eyes when I brought up boundaries, told me I was being too sensitive when I asked him to tell his mom to stop calling herself my daughter's safe person. He said things like, she's just trying to help, and maybe if you weren't always so tense. I swear if I'd had a taser. Then came the real gut punch. My daughter's school counselor called. Said my daughter had asked if it was illegal to live with your grandma instead of your mom if your mom yells a lot. The paperwork was already being prepared. Joyce was filing for emergency guardianship, and she wasn't doing it alone. She had Nate's signature. The betrayal didn't even hit all at once. It dripped in slow, suffocating waves. First came the email from the school, politely requesting a meeting regarding a developing custodial concern. Then the manila envelope in my mailbox with the return address of a local family law firm. But the real blow? The very first line of the emergency guardianship petition. Due to concerns regarding the emotional safety and well-being of the minor, we seek temporary custody to provide a more stable environment. Signed by Joyce, co-signed by Nate. My husband had actually signed legal documents claiming I was unstable. That I was somehow unfit to parent the child I'd carried, fed, loved, and protected, while he half-assed his way through fatherhood like it was an unpaid internship he never asked for. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I stood in the middle of my kitchen, holding that envelope, and laughed, out loud. A dry, cracked, hollow laugh that didn't even sound human. Because in what universe does a woman who owns 5 decorative crosses and once said yoga invites demons get to steal your child and convince the legal system it's for her own good? And Nate, my partner, the man who once said, I've never met someone more grounded than you. The same man who'd beg me to handle the bedtime routine every night because he just wasn't good with emotional stuff. Now he's suddenly concerned about emotional safety? Please. I called him, calmly, coldly. The kind of calm that comes right before a tornado flattens an entire neighborhood. Did you sign this? He didn't deny it. Didn't even hesitate. I think it's for the best right now, he said, like we were talking about switching dog food brands. For the best, I repeated. So you're fine letting your mother try to take our daughter from me based on manipulative hearsay? She's not taking her, he replied, exasperated. She's just helping us figure things out. You're so stressed all the time. It's affecting everyone. Stressed, right. As if I hadn't earned every wrinkle in my forehead fighting to hold this family together while Joyce spoon-fed our child emotional poison behind my back. I hung up without another word. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my own mother. We haven't been close. There's history there, but I needed backup. Someone on my side. She didn't ask for details. Just said, you want me to come down? And I said yes. Because if Joyce was going to start a war, I wasn't fighting it alone. 3 days later, My mother showed up with a rolling suitcase and a binder thicker than a Bible labeled Custody Hell, 1991 edition. You think Joyce invented crazy? She said, please. I wrote the manual on surviving a mother-in-law war, and that's when we started planning. Joyce thought she was playing chess. She didn't know I was about to flip the whole damn board. Joyce made her move. Now it was my turn. And I wasn't just fighting for custody. I was fighting for my daughter's mind, her memories, her reality. Because by now, Joyce had done more than just smear my name in court papers. She'd practically gaslit my child into believing I was the villain in a bedtime story. My mom didn't waste time. Within an hour of arriving, she had scanned every document, highlighted every line Joyce could twist in court, and bookmarked half a dozen case precedents. She'd been through her own nasty custody battle in the 90s and wasn't about to let her granddaughter get swallowed by history repeating itself. I finally understood why she'd always kept a spare legal pad in her purse and a fire in her chest. We hired a lawyer, my lawyer, a shark in pearls who once filed a motion during labor. She reviewed the paperwork Joyce had submitted and gave me a look that said, they've wildly overplayed their hand. Let them walk into court thinking you'll beg, she said. We're bringing receipts, so I brought them. I printed every message Joyce had sent my daughter. Every manipulative, you deserve better. Every backhanded, I'm the only one who listens. Every, don't tell your mom. We submitted screenshots, phone records, even the Facebook post that made it sound like she was the Mother Teresa of stolen children. Then we got real tactical. We reached out to the school counselor. Turns out she had already documented external adult influence creating emotional conflict in the student. That little note became gold. The school nurse had documented Joyce picking my daughter up multiple times without my consent and had flagged it as concerning behavior. Suddenly, I wasn't the unstable one. I was the one no one listened to until now. And Nate, oh, he was unraveling beautifully. He started texting late at night saying he didn't mean for it to go this far, that he just wanted peace, that maybe we could figure this out like adults. I ignored him until he sent the one message that changed everything. He wrote, she said it would just be temporary, that you calm down and thank us later. She, Joyce, the strings were showing. And guess who saved every message? Then came the pre-hearing mediation session, our first face-to-face showdown. Joyce showed up in a pastel sweater set and smugness you could smell through glass. Nate looked like a wet towel that had just accepted its fate in a gas station restroom. I kept my face neutral. My lawyer, however, smiled like she already knew the ending. Joyce opened with, we're here because we love her and just want what's best. My lawyer opened with, here's a list of documented psychological coercion tactics you've used on a minor. The color drained from Joyce's face so fast, I thought she'd left her soul in the parking lot. When we walked out of that room, my lawyer whispered, she's cracked. She just doesn't know it yet. But that night, I found out how far cracked people can go when they realize they're losing. Joyce wasn't done. She had one more card up her sleeve, and she was about to play it with both hands shaking. Joyce showed up at my daughter's soccer game with a Bible in one hand and a stack of flyers in the other. I was halfway through a lukewarm coffee when I saw her weaving through the bleachers like some deranged Girl Scout selling salvation instead of cookies. Every parent she stopped got the same whispered line, just pray for her, okay? She's going through something. It wasn't subtle, it wasn't smart, but it was calculated. She was poisoning the well. Within 20 minutes, 3 moms gave me the kind of smile you give someone after their mugshot hits the news. One even patted my shoulder and said, hang in there. I nearly choked. Hang in there? As if I was the unstable single mom spiraling while Grandma stepped in as the moral savior of the neighborhood. I confronted her, right there, on the grass in front of the snack shack. You think this is helping your case? I hissed, passing out character assassination in pamphlet form. Joyce smiled like she was hosting a church bake sale and said, the truth has a way of getting out. I'm just helping it along. That night I found out what was on the flyers. They weren't just your run-of-the-mill concerned grandparent nonsense. She had printed excerpts from my old blog, my personal mental health blog, from 10 years ago, where I'd written about postpartum depression after my daughter was born. She'd highlighted sentences like, sometimes I feel like I'm drowning, and slapped her own commentary underneath. Is this the mindset of a stable mother? It was nuclear level betrayal, but you know what Joyce didn't count on? Context. Because what she thought would destroy me actually humanized me. I made one post, just one, explaining what had happened. I posted photos, the documents, the screenshots. I told the truth, and the floodgates opened. Messages poured in. Not pity, support. Other moms, other daughters. People who'd been steamrolled by manipulative family members playing the victim while burning down the house. The hashtags started. The comments multiplied. People shared their stories, their grief, their rage. My story became our story. And Joyce, she became a cautionary tale. My daughter saw it too. She came into my room late that night, phone in hand, eyes wide. She posted that stuff about you, and people are defending you. I nodded because I told the truth. She was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, why would she lie like that? That was the first time I saw her doubt Joyce instead of me. It was the smallest shift, but it cracked something, and Joyce felt it. Because the very next day, I got a text from Nate. Mom says she's going to file for full custody. She's not stopping anymore. She was done playing nice. The gloves were off, and her final move was about to turn everything on its head. The petition landed on my porch like a bomb in a manila envelope. Full custody. Not shared, not temporary. Full. Joyce had filed an emergency motion claiming I was emotionally erratic, hostile toward the child support system, and creating a psychologically unsafe environment. It read like she'd swallowed a thesaurus, then threw up every phrase she thought might scare a judge. But here's the kicker. She claimed my daughter asked for it. That line, those 7 words, hit me harder than anything she'd done before. Because whether it was true or just another twisted manipulation, it meant Joyce was done playing shadow games. She was willing to drag my daughter into court, hand her a script, and have her say it out loud. Nate was radio silent. Coward. His name wasn't on this one. He wanted the war without the blood on his hands. Joyce was now flying solo. A 72-year-old grandma with a savior complex and a Pinterest board full of delusions. I called my lawyer immediately. She didn't mince words. She wants to force a hearing. Fast. She's betting you'll crack under pressure. What she didn't know, I was already cracked. But cracks let in light. My lawyer filed a motion to strike, and we requested something Joyce never expected. A mental health evaluation for everyone involved. Oh, you want to play the unstable card? Let's all take the damn test. Joyce lost her mind. She showed up at my house that night, pounding on the door like the HOA had just voted her queen. My mom answered. She didn't even flinch, just leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, and said, "She's busy gathering evidence. You should go before you say something else stupid." Joyce hissed. Actually hissed, then turned to leave, but not before shouting, "She's turning her against me. She'll hate you for this." Except that wasn't true anymore, because the next morning my daughter came to me, teary-eyed, holding her phone. She said I'd be safer if I never saw you again. She said if I loved her, I'd just go live with her and stop asking questions. I sat down, slowly, carefully, like if I moved too fast, the moment would vanish. "I don't want to live with Grandma," she said, "but I don't know what to do." And just like that, the fog started to lift. I didn't give her advice. I didn't tell her what to think. I just listened. I let her speak freely. No judgment, no correcting, no panic in my eyes. Because what Joyce never understood was that love doesn't need to manipulate to win. It just shows up. That weekend, my daughter asked to sleep in my room again, something she hadn't done since she was 8. She said she had a nightmare. She said Joyce was in it, and that Joyce kept telling her I was gone. I held her until she fell asleep. I didn't cry, not yet, because the real storm was still coming. The court date had been set, and Joyce was bringing a surprise witness. Someone I never thought would take her side, someone who knew all my secrets, someone who once called me sister. She brought my sister. That's who walked into that courtroom behind Joyce in her stiff beige blazer and smug little smirk. My own sister. We hadn't spoken in years. A falling out over a loan, a lie, and the kind of betrayal that slices deeper because it comes wrapped in shared blood. I thought she was out of my life for good, but apparently, Joyce had been doing her favorite thing again, recruiting. The judge hadn't even sat down yet, and my hands were shaking. Joyce had managed to dig up the one person who knew every crack in my foundation, every old wound I'd spent years patching, and she'd convinced her to testify against me. My sister took the stand like she'd been waiting for this spotlight since childhood. "She's always been dramatic," she began, voice syrupy sweet. "Even as a kid, everything was always a crisis with Rachel. One minute she's crying in her room, the next she's screaming at Mom for not understanding her. I'm not saying she's dangerous, just unstable." She glanced sideways at me, smug, like she'd won, like this was some long-awaited revenge tour. But my lawyer? Oh, she was ready. "Ma'am, were you present for any of the recent alleged incidents between Rachel and her daughter?" "Well, no, but..." "And have you been in regular contact with Rachel in the last 5 years?" "Not exactly regular, but..." "And did Joyce, the petitioner, reach out to you directly about testifying?" "Yes, she said..." "That's all I need, thank you." And just like that, the illusion shattered, because the judge didn't just see a concerned aunt. He saw a ghost from my past brought in by a woman grasping at control. The judge leaned back, steepled his fingers, and asked the question that changed everything. "Has the child expressed a preference in this matter?" Dead silence. And then my daughter stood up, unprompted, unplanned. She stood right there in front of everyone, Joyce, Nate, my sister, the judge, and said, "I want to live with my mom, and I want my grandma to leave us alone." Joyce went pale. Nate looked like he wanted to vanish into the floor. My sister suddenly found her cuticles fascinating. The judge called a recess, and in the hallway, my daughter grabbed my hand, not like a kid, like an ally, like someone who'd finally woken up and picked a side. We went back in. My lawyer made her closing. Joyce's lawyer tried to recover, but it was like trying to put a lid on a volcano after it's already erupted. The judge didn't just deny her petition. He issued a restraining order and ordered supervised visits for Joyce. Afterward, Nate came up to me. He had the nerve to say, "I didn't think it would go this far." I didn't even look at him. I just said, "That's the problem. You never think at all." Joyce didn't look at me. She just shuffled past like a ghost, the kind that used to haunt your dreams until you realized you had power all along. My daughter and I walked out of that courthouse into the daylight. She squeezed my hand and asked, "Can we get burgers?" We got burgers, milkshakes too. I let her play music in the car as loud as she wanted, and for the first time in years, it felt like peace. Not because the war was over, but because I finally knew I'd already won.